Greetings, Earthling! Welcome back. You see, Corona and the self-imposed restrictions are producing sort of kind of strange flowers. For example, doing your hair yourself, more or less successfully, at home. And just as my beard may bring back sweet memories of the 80s, so does more or less this beer. Because what the hell the light one is today, I mean, like the beer of the hour, is what the wheat beer was at the end of the 80s and the beginning of the 90s. The beer of the hour, the total trend. So while a lot of, especially after we talked about that before, beer became cheaper and cheaper. So the Bavarian breweries with their nice wheat beer was sort of kind of like a stronghold of taste, if you are quality, if you want to see it that way. So no wonder a lot of people prefer those over the regular Pilsner they could buy at their local, like pub. And coming to this, a lot of people had been to the mountains and, for example, indulged in large glasses of wheat beer in small ski huts, drinking against the great thirst. So, and everybody wanted to have a little, a holiday fun at home too. So you could get it at your local bar, wheat beer, sometimes 2 or 3 different kinds. And the older ones might remember the crystal wheat with a slice of lemon. Something that is so far away today as the Nintendo Game Boy. You can buy it somewhere, but you really, really have to look for it long and hard enough. So, the wheat beer, the Grünbacher Bayerisches Weißbier. They call it the white beer in southern Bavaria. The wheat beer is traditionally a top fermented beer with a lot of wheat malt, in contrast to the dark brown beer they had. And especially in Germany, it's regarded as a classic summer beer. How does that come about? There are several reasons. First of all, it's traditionally, as I said, a top fermented beer. That means it is brewed at temperatures at about 15 degrees Celsius. And 15 degrees is, if you have a dark and, deep enough cellar and a little ice from the winter, is not easy, it's not that hard to get a temperature for brewing beer. So even in summer times, you can brew this beer and have it fresh on hand. And so bottom fermented beer with brewing temperatures at about 5 degrees Celsius usually had to wait till, the cooler days of the year, at least until the cooling machines were available to everybody. Also, the shape of the glass is chosen so that the small carbon dioxide pearls, the bubbles, have to rise up through the glass, the whole glass up to the top. So they have to pass a lot of beer in that time. That keeps it fresh and sparkling, which especially is pleasant in the summer. So it is sort of kind of summer beer, but it also tastes in the winter time. So let's have a look at Grünbach. Grünbach is a small place nowadays, a part of the Bockhorn municipality in the Erding district. If you've never heard about it, don't mind. It's about half an hour from Munich, so it's Upper Bavaria, but if you have never heard it, don't worry. There was, like a lot of places, a brewery there in as early as the 16th century, probably from a monastery. And it is documented since the 18th century. So there was a brewery which was sold back and forth over and over again. And it wasn't until the early 20th century that somebody came up to the idea to make it a family business, which roughly speaking it is today, still is today. So we have something, like that is family owned, which we like. And it's not too big. So usually those places have a little more an eye on quality if they do something. The Weissbier, the wheat beer, was originally a very noble thing in Bavaria. Nowadays, it's the traditional Bavarian beer. I mean, like, wheat beer is the traditional Bavarian beer. But originally, it was a very noble beer because the wheat was food. So you didn't always have enough wheat to make beer. And in order not to make beer out of food, we know the concept, the ruler of Bavaria said nobody is allowed to make wheat beer, with one exception. That was a nobleman who actually was allowed to make wheat beer and sold it for a good price. So wheat beer always has been, the noble, the good, the nice beer. People wanted it but couldn't always afford it. And this ban actually ended at 1798, which is pretty late if you compare it to the rest of the history. So with a typical Bavarian product like wheat beer, it is no wonder that this one is called, to cash in on the tradition, the Bavarian wheat beer, Bayerisches Weissbier. And it's matured in the bottle, which is very good news because it usually has more taste than when it's done in a tank. The traditional way is to do it in bottles. And you get better flavor from it. But as old as it sounds, and if they, like traditional recipe, blah, 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 it is not, because the master brewer at the place, Sebastian Lochner, has created it about 6 or 7 years ago or so. So, appearances. Talking about appearances, let's have a look at the beer itself. As you can see, it behaves well. So we have a very, like common orange muddy color. I'm looking for the yeast in there, not to get rid of it. And the smell. A traditional wheat beer probably has a banana smell, which is an ethyl. The reason for that is an ethyl acetate called isoamyl acetate. I don't know if that's correctly pronounced. However, this is responsible for the slight smell and usually the taste of banana in wheat beer, which this one has too. So you can see how it nicely moves through the glass. As I said, banana. There's a slight smell of pear and clove, actually. It's sparkling. Not too much for my taste. Maybe a little more than others, but, well, that's your own taste. Definitely banana. Slight lemon taste. What's not that nice, it gets a little sour at the end. So it's not really this süffig kind of beer, which you just drop in one instant. But yeah, totally drinkable. Thumbs up. And I give it about 4 out of 5. So keep drinking and have a good day.